How many snaps did they run in the 14 personnel?
That's only for us.
100% of the snaps.
What's going on, guys? Marco here from 14P, and I am breaking down some running back rankings post-draft. I am talking top 7 running backs. I figured the top 2, everybody kind of knows who they are. So we're going to do top 2 and then the next 5. And so we're going to break down a little bit about their landing spots and what they can bring to their offenses. But before we do, I want to remind you, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We've got tons and tons of content coming out in season, and as we approach the real part of the off season, we're going to be having a lot of content as well. We're going to be doing videos 4 to 5 times a week over the course of the next couple of months here. So you are going to be getting tons of content, as well as if you subscribe to our Patreon, where you can get our rankings, Dynasty, Rookie, Redraft, tiered rankings, positional rankings, all of that. And so you want to make sure you head to patreon.com/14p fantasy. You could subscribe for as little as $2 a month to support us, or $5 a month, and you'll get those kinds of things, as well as our first run at a draft kit. And we're going to have sleepers, breakouts, bust, everything you could imagine. So make sure to subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/14p fantasy. And as always, if you got fantasy, dynasty, any kinds of questions like that, feel free to hit me up on Twitter at Marco_14P. All right, so we've got some good landing spots, some interesting landing spots, and the draft capital here was a little bit interesting when you look at a lot of these guys. So let's go ahead and start with the 101 of running backs, the 101 of all rookie drafts, whether it be super flex or standard or whatever, any format, basically your rookie draft 101. And the running back 1 overall. And for me, and I think for Justin as well, there's a very clear tier break after this guy, but it's Breece Hall, 5'11", 217. He's 20 years old, out of Iowa State, and he landed with the New York Jets. If you've watched any of our videos or our running back videos in the past, breaking down these rookies, the Jets were my number 1 landing spot for Breece Hall. So I love this. They've got a guy in Michael Carter who I liked a lot last year. He was my running back 4 of that class. But he is a guy who will be a really nice complement to Breece Hall. Sure, he might take some of the passing down work, but Breece Hall is going to be the workhorse running back for the New York Jets. They've got a very good offensive line. They've got an emerging young offense. I think Zach Wilson takes a step. They obviously added Garrett Wilson, as also they have Elijah Moore. And their defense is one of those defenses that has some nice pieces, but 1, they can't really stay healthy, and 2, even with the addition of Sauce Gardner, they are going to be behind in a lot of football games this year, which means this offense is going to be really, really great and fun for fantasy managers. So Breece Hall, he is the 101, the obvious one when it comes to the rookies here. I think he's going to do a lot on the ground in between the tackles. He's going to be able to be put out wide sometimes. Maybe they flirt around with messing with him in the slot as well. And sure, Michael Carter will be a factor, but Michael Carter being a factor isn't a huge deal when you look at Breece Hall's overall dynasty value. Even if Carter sees as high as 40% of the touches, Breece Hall is still the rookie running back 101. I think Carter is going to probably be settling more around 25, 30% of snaps. And I should say snaps, not touches, but I think that he's going to probably be in that range. And that's 100% fine for a young stud running back in Breece Hall, who is probably going to be a very efficient ball carrier when he's given opportunity. So Breece Hall, 101, RB1, tier break, hard tier break. All right, now this is probably the guy who a lot of people are like, well, he's in the same tier, and he isn't. And there's almost no way that you can put him in the tier, especially with the landing spot. That has some nice parts to it, but Kenneth Walker, 5'9", 211. He's 21 years old, out of Michigan State. He was a lot of people's RB2, and he landed as the second running back drafted in the NFL draft. He landed with the Seattle Seahawks, who are kind of a mess at running back. They have Chris Carson, who probably won't get to play in the NFL again. Unfortunately, we pray for just a continued recovery for his neck and just the issues he's dealing with. But they've got Rashaad Penny, which a couple people near the end of the season got really excited about with his 4-game stretch. And Rashaad Penny's fine, but he's also a guy who can never be healthy. He can never stay healthy. And that's part of the running back position. That's the position that gets banged up and beat up the most. So even if Rashaad Penny is a thing, Kenneth Walker is going to take a majority of the work fairly quickly. Rashaad Penny this year might be annoying, but after that, it's the Kenneth Walker show. The reason why he's way behind Breece is that Kenneth Walker, whether you believe he can catch passes or not, the Seahawks don't care because they don't really throw to the running back position. They don't. They have an atrocious offensive line. And we've talked about how offensive line isn't the most important thing in the world, but usually it's important to have a decent offensive line. When you have there's a huge difference between a horrible offensive line and a decent offensive line. There's not a huge difference between a decent offensive line and an incredible offensive line as when it comes to running back fantasy production. And the big thing that helps elevate running backs when their offensive line isn't decent, when it's decent or below average, is that they can be pass catchers. Kenneth Walker, that's a huge question mark for him. I think he can probably catch the ball okay. But again, he's not probably going to be given the opportunity. This offense is going to be one that is beat up constantly. They've got poor offensive line play. They added an offensive lineman. That's okay. They need a lot to go on this offensive line. They've got Drew Lock currently at quarterback. Who knows if they go get Baker or whoever else. Either way, this offense is going to be a little bit of a mess, and it might be boom weeks, bust weeks, and it's going to be just ugly for a little bit. So I think Kenneth Walker will be a solid player in 2022, but really dynasty-wise, Kenneth Walker is a guy who is someone you can get excited about. 2022, this offense might not score enough for Kenneth Walker to be a premier running back for fantasy teams. So he is the running back 2. He's probably someone that needs to go in the top 3 to 5 picks in your rookie drafts, depending what your team makeup is. There's a lot of wide receivers that I could make the argument to go ahead of Kenneth Walker, depending on what your team needs and how you really value the running back position, or how your league values the running back position is also really important. This is another hard tier break, hard tier break, because that's kind of the only guys that you're really excited about their talent and prospect profile matching with their landing spot. The rest of these guys had some questions with draft capital, and their role in their offenses are a little bit weird. So let's go to our running back 3, and that is Rashaad White. So Rashaad White, 6 foot, 214. He's a little bit older. He's 23 years old, but he is a very, very good running back. He's a guy who the big knocks on him were, is he a guy who's able to run the ball up the middle? He's a pass catching specialist. Maybe people see him as. I don't think he's a specialist. I think he can kind of do it all. His frame is a little bit thinner, and so who knows if the NFL is going to be a different game for him, but he's right now behind Leonard Fournette for the Tampa Bay Bucks. And I think what you need to realize with Rashaad White is that he is someone who is going to probably be involved in the offense pretty early. Like, they are talking about wanting to run the ball more, and even if they're not running the ball, he is, like I said, a lot of people talk about him as a pass catching specialist. He's a phenomenal pass catcher, and he's okay in pass protection, but rookie running backs tend to be weak at that regardless. There's very few, and there's some at the end of this list who are good at that. Rashaad White's not really one of those that you can say pass blocking is a really a plus trait for him, but he's a guy who's probably going to get involved early. He's going to probably have flex appeal by the end of the season. It might take a little while for him, though, because, of course, he's got Leonard Fournette in front of him, who proved that he can carry a huge chunk of the load. I think this hurts Leonard Fournette because he's not going to see 50 plus targets in this offense. Rashaad White has an opportunity to see probably 100 to 150 touches in this offense, and it's an offense that scores a lot of touchdowns. So I think that's a big boost for him. Dynasty wise, he is a guy you should be excited to have. I comped him to Tony Pollard in the offseason, and I think that comp still stands. So it just depends with the health of Leonard Fournette and what this offense is going to do for the long term. But Rashaad White could be a guy you can throw on the end of your bench. And if you're deep at running back, throw him on your taxi squad, let him sit there, because this year he could be okay. Next year could be a big year for Rashaad White. All right, so this is where Justin and I differ. My next guy is actually Justin's. Let's see, this is going to be our fourth guy. Justin, I believe, has him at 5 or 6, but it's Isaiah Spiller. He I had him as my running back 2 coming into the draft. I've had to lower him. He is now my running back 4 in this class. Draft capital matters. And if you're not able to adjust to that, then you're probably doing yourself a disservice when you're looking at these guys as true prospects for your fantasy teams. He went in the 4th round. You were hoping that he got at least 3rd round draft capital, because if he did, he would still be my running back 2 in this class. If he got 3rd round draft capital, at least, that he would, there's a very clear chance that he would be my RB2, maybe RB3, depending on, landing spot. But he went in the 4th round, which is what's got him as my RB4. I think Justin's RB5, 6. He's like right in that range. And Isaiah Spiller landed with the Los Angeles Chargers, which is why one of the reasons I kept him at 4 and I didn't let him fall too much below that. So obviously Austin Eckler's there. Austin Eckler is a stud, a superstar. He proved a lot of his doubters, me included, wrong last year. He had tons of goal line work. He did incredible in the passing game, as we expected. And the Chargers have been looking for the guy who can complement Austin Eckler really, really well. And they've been failing to do that. And they have a litany of running backs who are just way below average. And so I think Isaiah Spiller is finally their guy to be a perfect complement to Austin Eckler. And I think Isaiah Spiller is in the situation where if the running back ahead of him, if Austin Eckler were to get hurt or anything like that, we don't hope for any of that to happen, because Austin Eckler, like you said, is an awesome fantasy player, an awesome football player. But if he were to go down, Isaiah Spiller would immediately be vaulted into mid to high end running back 2 with running back 1 potential in this offense, because of the system that he's been put in. But he is a guy who can run between the tackles. He's got incredible vision, incredible footwork and patience. He's awesome in the passing game. His athletic ability, his athletic profile is what knocked him down. But a lot of people who watched Isaiah Spiller and saw what he did really well didn't ever expect him to blow up the combine. They didn't expect him to perform as poorly as he did, and that's why he fell to round 4. But his landing spot definitely helps him quite a bit, because if you still believe in what you saw on the football field, which I do, that can translate really well into an efficient, high-functioning offense, especially as a complementary role in year 1, potentially, beyond that. But I think he definitely has the most upside of this group of running backs behind the top 2 when it comes to potential success and workload if the guy in front of them were to go down, or if they were to fall into some more opportunity. All right, so the next guy on our list is my running back 5. I think Justin might have him as his running back 4, but it's James Cook. James Cook is, and I you know what, I'm just noticing now, I think the weight and the ages, are off here. But James Cook is a very talented running back, but he is what a lot of people thought in Rashaad White was a pass catching specialist. That's not true for Rashaad White. I think it is true for James Cook. He's not really a guy who's going to be running between the tackles. He landed with the Buffalo Bills, which elevates his value, but he should not be a 1st round draft pick for your rookie for your rookie drafts. 110, I've been seeing him sneak up to 110. I wouldn't do that. He's 201 and later. I'm fine if you want to go James Cook, because I think he will have a role in this offense. I think the Bills have basically said, we don't want Devin Singletary to be our guy or anywhere near our guy on this offense. We want someone else who's going to be able to come in, complement Devin Singletary well, and be a good pass catching option. And that is James Cook. So James Cook, I think, is going to be very similar to what we have seen from the Washington football team, the Washington Commanders in J.D. McKissic. I think that's what the James Cook can do for this offense. He's younger. He's in a more proficient offense, like I said, in the Buffalo Bills. So that's a boost for him. So he's my running back 5 here. And then next is probably a guy who people are thinking they're going to see, my next guy is not a guy they're thinking they're going to see right here, but it is going to be Tyler Algier. Again, I think some of the weights and stuff are off here, but Tyler Algier landed with the Atlanta Falcons. I think he is immediately going to see work in this offense. Obviously, Cordell Patterson is going to be the pass-catching guy, but Tyler Algier can do that. He's not an athletic freak. That's why he went late to the Falcons. But I think between the tackles, he is definitely better than Mike Davis. That's why they probably released Mike Davis. And so he could see pretty frequent and early work from an offense that's trying to figure it out. Ultimately, will he be a long-term dynasty asset? Probably not, But I think when you look at this group, he's probably the most complete back of the James Cooks, the Tyler Algiers, or the Damien Pierces. I think he's probably the most complete option, even though he's not the most athletic. And so he's not going to be wowing you with any sort of athletic explosion or even, long field speed. He's one of those guys that is going to be a little bit of a trudger, but he's powerful and he could fit this offense for a year or two. Who knows how the Falcons perform this year? They could be adding a running back as early as 2023. But for 2022, I'm fine if you add him in the late, mid to late third round. And hopefully you'll get, a year's worth of value, maybe two, from a running back that's shown some things, but nothing elite, nothing that's going to keep him around in the NFL for a very long time. So don't get crazy here. But yeah, mid to late third and below, I think is a great spot for Tyler Algier in your rookie drafts. All right. The last guy I have on my list is a guy a lot of you probably expected to see up at like running back 4. It's Damien Pierce. He landed with the Houston Texans. And really, Damien Pierce, we've talked about this on a number of videos. He is exactly replacement level at everything. All of his traits are replacement level, I think, at the NFL. So he'll stick around. But the thing that's really probably going to keep him on a lot of NFL teams and with the Texans is his pass blocking. So they could bring in another running back, and Damien Pierce will probably still be on the field a decent amount because of his pass blocking. I don't think he's a special talent at the NFL level. The Texans are void of any sort of consistent talent at running back, so he could be around this year and could be decent. RB3 is probably his ceiling for 14P. I know I'm not sure if Justin lands in the same spot, but he's probably pretty close because he's just not an overly gifted player. He's going to be around. He reminds me a lot of kind of Alfred Morris, except for he's got a little bit more burst, a short area burst. And I think that's the kind of role, like not peak Alfred Morris, but like every other version of Alfred Morris, where he's going to be around. He can do some things, but he's not doing anything special. And so that's what you have with Damien Pierce. So really, if you look at this entire list of running backs, I think something that you need to be very, very conscious of is that next year, 2023, those running backs are coming, and they're coming soon. They're coming next season. So outside of Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker, I don't think any of these other running backs really stand a chance at long-term value. Rashaad White, Isaiah Spiller, James Cook, those three to me have probably the most opportunity to have opportunity for the longest amount of time because they're on offenses that are very proficient, offenses that probably aren't going to take a running back that early in drafts come next season or even the year after. And so I think that next tier of guys of Rashaad White, Isaiah Spiller, James Cook, they will have opportunity for the foreseeable future. We just don't know how much and really what they're going to be able to do with it. So really, if you are looking at running backs in your rookie draft, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker are the two that I would be excited about adding to my team. Everyone after that should be second round or later draft capital. And I'm taking typically Rashaad White and Isaiah Spiller, but both of them should be gone by like 206, 207. And then James Cook is probably in that same range in the top 20 picks of your draft, 25 picks of your draft. After that, you're taking shots in the dark. And if you're going to take shots in the dark, like we said, late or third round or later, take them on running back and who knows what happens. But I just have to remind you guys, 2023 is coming. A lot of these running backs, no matter how excited you are about their landing spot or their skill set, if they didn't get the draft capital, they are replaceable, and they probably will be replaced in sometime in the next 2 to 3 years. So take that caution with you as you go into your rookie drafts, and maybe you can capitalize on some nice value for 2022 specifically. Otherwise, I hope you've got the 101 or somewhere in the top 5 picks of your rookie drafts if you're looking at running backs, and maybe Kenneth Walker will fall to you. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like I said, if you've got questions, drop them below. Hit me up on Twitter at Marco_14P, and subscribe to the Patreon/14P Fantasy. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you next time. Peace.
How many snaps did they run in the 14 personnel?
That's only for us.
100% of the snaps.